AITA for refusing to forgive my fiancé and sister after I caught them together? When I think back to that night, I still can't decide whether it was the worst or best thing that ever happened to me. Worst, because I lost the two people I trusted most in one of the most humiliating ways possible. Best, because I saw them for who they truly were before I made the mistake of binding my life to theirs forever. It started like any other Friday. I'd had a brutal week at work, the kind where all I wanted to do was go home, kick off my shoes, and crash in front of Netflix with my fiancé, Mark. We'd been together for almost 4 years, engaged for 6 months, and in my head, everything was perfect. Sure, wedding planning had been stressful, and Mark wasn't exactly helpful with the details, but I chalked it up to him being a typical guy. He'd roll his eyes about flower arrangements but then kiss my forehead and say, "That's why I've got you. You're better at this stuff anyway." My little sister, Emily, was living with us at the time. She was 22, still figuring out her life, bouncing between jobs and boyfriends. I'd always been the responsible one in the family, the one who took care of her when our parents were fighting or when she needed money for rent. So when she asked if she could stay with us just for a few months, of course I said yes. She was my baby sister. I thought I was protecting her. I left work a little early that day, excited to surprise Mark. I even stopped at his favorite Thai place and picked up dinner. I remember humming in the car, thinking how lucky I was. Thinking how, in a few months, I'd be walking down the aisle toward the man I loved, with my sister cheering me on as maid of honor. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed his car was there. Good. Perfect. I could surprise him. I opened the front door as quietly as I could, carrying the bags of food. The house was dim, only a few lights on. At first, I thought maybe he was upstairs working on something. But then I heard it. Laughter. Muffled voices. Coming from the living room. I froze. Something in the pit of my stomach twisted, a voice whispering that something wasn't right. I walked slowly, quietly, until I reached the corner. And that's when I saw them. Mark. My fiancé. Sitting on the couch with Emily. My sister. His hand was on her thigh, his face close to hers, their bodies leaning in like they'd been doing this forever. She giggled, brushed her hair back, and then, God, I can still see it, he kissed her. Full on the mouth. For a moment, my brain refused to process it. I just stood there, frozen, watching my future collapse in slow motion. Then the shock gave way to rage. What the hell is this? I screamed. They jerked apart like guilty teenagers. Emily's face went pale. Mark's mouth opened and closed like a fish. It's not what it looks like, he stammered. Not what it looks like? My voice was shaking, tears burning my eyes. Are you kidding me? You're kissing my sister on our couch. Emily jumped up, hands raised. Please, just calm down. It was stupid, okay? It didn't mean anything. Didn't mean anything? I repeated, my voice breaking. You're my sister. You're supposed to have my back. You're supposed to be my maid of honor, Emily. Mark stood too, reaching for me. Baby, listen. I messed up. I wasn't thinking. It's nothing. You know I love you. I stepped back so fast I nearly tripped over the coffee table. Don't you dare touch me. The room spun. My chest felt like it was caving in. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I knew was that I had to get out. So I dropped the food on the floor, grabbed my keys, and ran. I don't even remember driving. 1 minute I was in the house, the next I was sitting in my car in some empty parking lot, sobbing into my steering wheel until I couldn't see straight. That night, I didn't go home. I slept in a cheap hotel, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my entire life had imploded in the span of 10 minutes. The next morning, my phone was full of messages. From Mark. From Emily. From my mom. Mark, please, I can explain. Don't throw everything away over one mistake. Emily, I'm so sorry. It just happened. Don't hate me. Mom, sweetheart, please call me. Don't make this bigger than it is. Emily is young. You're more mature than this. More mature. That phrase made me want to scream. As if I was the one who needed to be mature about walking in on my fiancé with my sister. I ignored them all. For 2 days, I shut my phone off and stayed in that hotel. I cried. I screamed. I punched a pillow until my hands hurt. And when I finally checked my phone again, it was worse. Emily had posted a photo online. Her hand in marks. Wearing my engagement ring. Caption, sometimes love surprises you. Meant to be. The betrayal hit me like a second wave, almost worse than the first. Not only had they betrayed me, but they were flaunting it. My little sister, smiling like she'd won some prize, wearing the ring he'd given me. That was when something in me hardened. Fine. They wanted each other? They could have each other. But I wasn't going to play the role of the humiliated ex who slinks away quietly. If they thought they were going to waltz into a happily ever after while I disappeared, they were wrong. Because if there's one thing about me, it's this: I don't forgive betrayal. And I don't forget. I stared at that photo until my eyes blurred. It wasn't even the image that cut me deepest, it was the comments. Our mutual friends, cousins, people from our hometown, all chiming in with things like, "OMG, you two are so cute," and "Wow, didn't see this coming, but love always finds a way." No one knew the truth. No one knew that the ring had been mine first, that Mark had slipped it on my finger while promising me forever. To them, Emily looked like the lucky younger sister who just happened to stumble into some whirlwind romance. To me, she was a thief wearing my life like it was her new dress. I didn't reply. I didn't post. I didn't say a word. But in that silence, I started to plan. The first step was reclaiming myself. I went back to the house while I knew they wouldn't be there. Sunday afternoon, Mark's family always did a big lunch, and I knew Emily would tag along now that she was his new love. Walking into my own home felt like stepping into a crime scene. The couch, the one where I'd caught them, sat there like a corpse I didn't want to touch. The smell of their perfume and cologne still lingered faintly. I grabbed everything that mattered to me. Important documents, my clothes, my jewelry, the box of childhood keepsakes under my bed. But I left behind the photos. The ones of me and Mark smiling on vacations, him kissing my cheek, Emily posing next to me at Christmas. Those could rot in the frames. Let them see my empty walls and know I'd taken myself out of their story. Then I went to my parents' house. My mom greeted me with tight lips, her disappointment obvious. My dad looked confused but supportive in his quiet way. "You can't cut your sister out over this," my mom said, shaking her head like I was being dramatic. "She's young, she doesn't think things through. And Mark, well, men make mistakes. If you love him, you can work through it." Work through it? I laughed, sharp and bitter. He cheated on me with my sister. And now she's wearing my ring. What exactly do you suggest I work through, Mom? The image burned into my head of them on the couch. Her expression hardened. "You've always been so unforgiving. Sometimes you have to let things go for the sake of family." That was the moment I realized my mother would never be on my side. She'd rather smooth things over than confront the ugliness. But I wasn't interested in smoothing anything over. I was interested in making sure they knew exactly what they had destroyed. Over the next few weeks, I stayed quiet. Outwardly, it looked like I'd disappeared, moved out, licked my wounds, and retreated. But inside, I was watching. Collecting. Planning. Emily and Mark announced their engagement 3 weeks later. Yes, engagement. He didn't even bother to buy her a new ring, she was still wearing mine. They posted photos online, smiling like they were the stars of some romantic comedy. The caption read, "Life works in mysterious ways. So excited to spend forever with my soulmate." That word, soulmate, made me want to put my fist through a wall. People congratulated them in droves. Some raised eyebrows, of course. A few friends messaged me privately asking if it was weird, but I didn't reply. I let the narrative spin itself, painting me as the bitter ex who couldn't handle love finding its way between my sister and my former fiancé. But what they didn't know was that I'd already decided how this story would end. Because they weren't just planning an engagement. They were planning a wedding. My wedding. Every detail, from the venue to the catering to the guest list, was exactly what I'd been working on before everything imploded. I knew because Emily was dumb enough to brag about it online. She posted pictures of herself at the bridal shop, yes, the same one where I had tried on dresses months earlier. She captioned it, saying yes to the dress. I felt like I was living in some twisted alternate universe. My sister had slid into my life like she was playing dress-up, and no one seemed to care. That's when the idea came to me. I wouldn't just walk away. I wouldn't just disappear. I'd let them walk themselves straight into the biggest mistake of their lives, and then I'd be there to set the record straight when it mattered most. I started small. I gathered evidence. Screenshots of messages Mark had sent me, promising me forever just weeks before he kissed Emily. Old photos of him and me on vacations, at family events, at the exact venue where they were planning to say I do. Proof that our relationship wasn't some casual fling but a 4-year commitment. I also collected receipts. Literally. The deposits I'd put down on the venue. The catering invoices with my name on them. The emails I'd exchanged with vendors about the floral arrangements Emily was now passing off as her own ideas. Every piece of evidence told the same story. This wasn't some whirlwind romance between Emily and Mark. This was my life. My wedding. My future. Stolen. The hardest part was patience. I wanted to scream it from the rooftops. I wanted to expose them immediately. But no, that would be too easy for them. They'd spin it, twist it, say I was overreacting. No, the truth had to come out at the perfect moment. When they couldn't deny it. When everyone would see them for what they really were. So I waited. The invitations went out. I got one in the mail, addressed to me with Emily's loopy handwriting. Inside, a cream-colored card with gold lettering, "Please join us in celebrating the love of Emily and Mark." I laughed out loud when I read it. They actually had the audacity to invite me to their wedding. Maybe they thought it would make them look magnanimous. Maybe they thought I'd be too weak to show my face. But oh, I was going. The weeks leading up to the wedding were surreal. I kept quiet, kept my head down, let my mom believe I was coming around. Emily sent me texts dripping with fake sweetness, "I really hope you'll be there. It would mean so much to me." I didn't reply. But every night, I fine-tuned my plan. I organized my evidence into a neat little folder. I rehearsed what I'd say if I got the chance. I imagined the look on their faces when the truth finally exploded in front of everyone they cared about. The day of the wedding arrived hot and bright, the kind of day you'd expect for a picture-perfect fairy tale. I wore a simple dress, nothing fancy, just enough to blend in with the guests. My stomach churned as I drove to the venue, but it wasn't nerves, it was anticipation. The ceremony started late. Emily walked down the aisle in a dress I recognized from the bridal shop catalog. Mark stood at the altar, grinning like the smug bastard he was. My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue, clearly proud of her happy little family. And then, just as the officiant began to speak, I stood. The silence that fell was instant and sharp. Every head turned toward me. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice steady though my heart was racing. "But before this circus continues, everyone here deserves to know the truth." Emily's face went white. Mark's smile dropped. My mother hissed, "Sit down," from the front row. But I didn't. I walked to the front, folder in hand, and turned to face the guests. "This man," I said, pointing at Mark, "proposed to me 6 months ago. With this exact ring." Gasps rippled through the crowd. I pulled out a photo, me, smiling with the ring on my finger, dated just weeks before everything fell apart. We were together for 4 years. 4 years. And while I was planning our wedding, he was sleeping with my sister. A murmur spread like wildfire. And you, I said, turning to Emily, you knew exactly what you were doing. You didn't just steal my fiancé. You stole my wedding. The venue, the flowers, the catering, everything here was planned by me. Paid for by me. And you thought you could waltz in and pretend it was yours. Emily opened her mouth, but no words came out. Mark stammered something about love finding a way, but no one was listening. I held up the receipts, the emails, the proof. The guests looked horrified. A few people stood, clearly disgusted, and walked out. Mark's parents looked ready to sink into the floor. And me? I felt lighter than I had in months. Because in that moment, I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the girl who got betrayed. I was the one who ripped the mask off their perfect little fantasy and showed everyone the truth. And judging by the whispers spreading through the crowd, their happily ever after had just gone up in flames. The silence after my words felt endless. It was the kind of silence that crushes the air from your lungs, heavy and suffocating. Emily's face was pale as paper, her perfect bridal makeup streaking as tears welled in her eyes. Mark tried to reach for her hand, like somehow holding on would keep the world from collapsing. But it was too late. The crowd was buzzing now. Whispers flew like sparks in dry grass. Did you know? Oh my God, that's her sister? The same ring? I saw my aunt grab her husband's arm and shake her head in disbelief. My dad looked stricken, torn between shame and anger, while my mom sat rigid, her lips pressed into a thin line, furious that I had dared to make a scene. The officiant, poor man, cleared his throat and muttered something about needing to pause. He stepped aside like he wanted nothing to do with this circus. I turned to Mark and Emily one last time. My voice was calm, almost too calm. You can both try to spin this however you like. But everyone here knows the truth now. You built this wedding on a lie. On my life. And you thought you'd get away with it. Emily let out a choked sob. Mark muttered, "You're bitter, you just can't let go." Bitter? I snapped. Bitter is catching your fiancé with your sister on your couch. Bitter is watching her wear your ring. This isn't bitterness, Mark. This is justice. With that, I dropped the folder of evidence right there on the altar. Photos, receipts, screenshots spilling across the floor like a confetti of truth. I didn't stay to watch them scramble. I didn't need to. Their humiliation was complete. I turned and walked down the aisle, the train of Emily's stolen dress brushing against my shoes as I passed her. For once, every eye was on me, not as the betrayed ex, not as the jealous sister, but as the woman who refused to stay silent. The doors shut behind me with a heavy thud, and I breathed in the fresh air like I'd been drowning for months. The fallout started immediately. By the time I got home, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Some messages were from relatives, half of them horrified, half of them blaming me for ruining the wedding. Old friends texted, some saying they were proud of me for standing up for myself, others gossiping about the spectacle. I ignored most of them. But I couldn't ignore the ripple effect spreading across social media. Someone at the wedding had filmed the entire thing. My speech, Emily's tears, Mark's stammering, everything. The video went viral among our circle within hours. Comments poured in. Imagine doing this to your own sister. He didn't even buy her a new ring? Justice served. Mark tried to do damage control online, posting some sanctimonious caption about love being complicated and sometimes paths change. But no one was buying it. Every comment was roasting him. My personal favorite was, complicated? Bro, you proposed to her sister first. That's not complicated, that's trash. Emily, on the other hand, went silent. No posts, no stories, nothing. I heard through the grapevine that she'd locked herself in their shared apartment, crying nonstop. Part of me felt a flicker of pity, but it burned out quickly. She made her choice. My parents were furious. My mom called me the next day, her voice sharp as broken glass. "You humiliated this family," she hissed. "In front of everyone. Do you know how this makes us look?" "I didn't humiliate us," I said coldly. "Emily and Mark did that when they decided to betray me. All I did was tell the truth. You could have handled it privately." "Oh, like you wanted? Pretend it didn't happen? Smile through my sister marrying my fiancé?" My voice cracked, raw with anger. "No, Mom. I'm done protecting everyone else's image while I'm the one bleeding." She hung up on me. But my dad reached out later. His voice was quiet, tired. "I wish it hadn't come to this," he said. "But, I can't blame you. You did what you had to do." That meant more to me than I expected. In the weeks that followed, the cracks in Emily and Mark's relationship widened fast. Without the illusion of their perfect wedding, reality set in. People stopped congratulating them and started avoiding them. Mark's parents were livid, especially since they'd put money into the wedding that never happened. I heard they demanded he pay them back, which only caused more fights. As for Emily, she couldn't show her face without whispers following her. At work, in the neighborhood, even at family gatherings, people looked at her differently. Not as the sweet younger sister anymore, but as the woman who stole her sibling's fiancé. Their relationship didn't last long. By the 3-month mark, they were done. Emily moved back in with my parents, sulking and bitter. Mark disappeared from social media entirely, probably too embarrassed to face the backlash. Meanwhile, I felt free. For the first time in years, I wasn't defined by my relationship or my sister's shadow. I focused on myself. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned, reconnected with friends I'd drifted from, even started dating again on my own terms. But the best part? Watching Emily try to pick up the pieces while knowing she'd built her downfall with her own hands. One day, months later, she tried to corner me at my parents' house. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse. "You ruined my life," she spat. I laughed, not cruelly, but with a kind of exhausted amusement. "No, Emily. You ruined mine first. I just refused to let you get away with it." She had no comeback. She just glared at me, and for the first time, I realized she wasn't some all-powerful rival. She was just a sad, insecure girl who thought stealing what was mine would make her happy. It didn't. So here I am now, months later, finally able to breathe. People still talk, of course, they always will. Some say I was too harsh, others say I was a hero. But at the end of the day, I know the truth, I stood up for myself when no one else would. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about screaming or fighting. Sometimes it's just about shining a light so bright that the liars can't hide in the shadows anymore. And I'll admit, watching their lies crumble in front of everyone they wanted to impress? That was the sweetest justice I could ever ask for. Time has a strange way of softening things, or sharpening them. 6 months passed. The world kept moving, but in my little corner of it, the ripples of that wedding day never stopped spreading. At first, I couldn't go anywhere without someone recognizing me. Grocery store clerks, baristas, old classmates, it was like everyone had seen that viral clip. Strangers would whisper, "That's the girl who exposed her sister at her wedding." Some offered sympathetic smiles. Others just looked at me like I was a walking headline. It was exhausting. But I forced myself to keep going. Therapy helped. At first, I resisted it, I didn't want to be the broken girl who needed fixing. But my therapist reframed it. She said, "You're not broken. You're healing from betrayal. Healing isn't weakness, it's reclaiming control." That clicked. So, I poured myself into the work. I journaled, I ran in the mornings, I forced myself to stop scrolling through Emily and Mark's feeds, though by then, Mark had gone ghost. Slowly, the ache in my chest dulled. Meanwhile, Emily and Mark's relationship was crumbling in real time. Word spread that they'd tried to make it work after the wedding fiasco. But the truth? They were never built to last. Their entire foundation was lies and stolen moments. Without the thrill of sneaking around, they were just two selfish people staring at each other's flaws in the harsh light of day. I didn't gloat. Not openly, at least. But when a mutual friend told me Emily had been venting that Mark wasn't as romantic anymore and never took responsibility, I couldn't help but laugh. Of course he didn't. You saw him betray me, and you thought he'd be different with you? By month 4, Mark was spotted out with another woman. Not even discreetly, holding hands at a bar, laughing, looking free. Emily found out the same way I did, through photos circulating in our social circle. The irony was so sharp it almost hurt. She had destroyed me to be with him, only to be discarded the same way. My mom begged me not to say, "I told you so." But honestly, I didn't need to. Life had already done it for me. One evening, I got a knock on my apartment door. When I opened it, Emily was standing there. She looked wrecked. Hair messy, makeup smudged, eyes puffy like she hadn't slept in days. In her hands, she clutched a crumpled tissue and a half-empty water bottle. "Can I come in?" she whispered. Against my better judgment, I let her. She sat on my couch, small and fragile in a way I'd never seen before. For a long time, she just stared at her hands, twisting the tissue. Finally, she spoke. "He left me," she said hoarsely. "He said I was too much. That he couldn't deal with my drama." I stayed quiet. She glanced at me, her eyes brimming. I thought we were in love. I thought it was different. I wanted to scream. To remind her that she had ripped my life apart, only to come crying back when karma bit her. But looking at her, pathetic, hollowed out, I felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But pity. "You thought stealing what was mine would make you happy," I said quietly. "But happiness doesn't come from lies, Emily. It never lasts." She crumpled then, sobbing into her hands. I sat there, stiff, unsure whether to comfort her or let her drown in her own choices. In the end, I didn't hug her. I didn't yell either. I just let her cry, because maybe that was the only lesson she could learn the hard way. After she left, I sat in silence for a long time. My apartment felt heavier, like her sorrow had seeped into the walls. But it also felt lighter, in a strange way. For the first time, I realized I wasn't carrying the weight anymore. She was. And that was enough. The real closure came months later, when I bumped into Mark at a cafe downtown. I almost didn't recognize him at first. He looked older, worn down. The cocky smile was gone, replaced with dark circles and a slouched posture. He spotted me, froze, and for a second I thought he'd leave. But instead, he walked over. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can I, sit?" I didn't invite him, but he sat anyway. I just wanted to say, he rubbed his neck, eyes darting everywhere but me. "I'm sorry. For everything." I studied him. The man I'd once thought I'd marry looked so small now, so pathetic. And for the first time I didn't feel anger. Just indifference. "You're not sorry," I said calmly. "You're just regretful. There's a difference. You regret getting caught. You regret losing your safety net. But sorry? That means owning the hurt you caused. And I don't think you're capable of that." His mouth opened, closed. He didn't argue. He just sat there, deflated. Finally, I stood. "I don't hate you anymore, Mark. But I don't care about you either. You don't matter to me." And with that, I walked away. The freedom I felt in that moment was indescribable. A year later, I look back at everything with a strange sense of gratitude. Not for the betrayal, I'll never thank them for that. But for what it forced me to do. I learned to fight for myself. To stop shrinking to make others comfortable. To value my peace over appearances. Emily and I aren't close. We're polite at family events, nothing more. She's still picking up the pieces of her life, and I've stopped trying to fix her. That's her journey, not mine. Mark? He's nothing but a fading memory. A cautionary tale. And me? I'm thriving. I got a promotion at work, I started traveling, I even met someone new, someone kind, respectful, and honest. The kind of man who makes me wonder how I ever settled for less. So was I the asshole for exposing them? No. I was the survivor. And I'll never apologize for telling the truth.